How many magic items do you give your players throughout the course of a campaign? In the very beginning of a campaign, how many items, magic items should they have at level 5, level 10, level 15, whatever, right? It's a little bit more customizable of a problem than that. So myself personally, I can't answer the question of how many items at what level. I think it's a little too inside the box to even ask that question. I am going to say a number in a second, but it depends on how strong these magic items are. I have a magic item system. I am not a fan of the magic item system of uncommon, common, rare, very rare, all that kind of stuff. I have 3 categories. I have wondrous, which are magic items that are extremely weak, like barely a magic item, right? They have the power level of a cantrip or lower-ish, right? Nothing crazy, nothing to write home about. It's super simple, right? That's it. It might even grant like it might be +2 to acrobatics or something, and that's literally as much as it does, right? Those items are really cool. Give those out, which I'm going to get to in a second. Second tier of items are heroic items, is what I'm calling it. And 80% of the items in the game, I feel, are these, right? As far as the different types of magic items out there. They are a classic magic item. They are strong in certain situations. They're useful overall, but they're not going to be just, you know, of course, if you have a +1 armor class or something, +1 magic weapon, of course, those are going to be useful in more places. But usually these have a specific niche where they shine in, but most of these are magic items. You can give out heroic items in any type of the stuff I released on my Patreon, magic items I have there. In my Kickstarter, I have an add-on that's a magic item booster pack that anything labeled heroic is going to be something you can give your party and not worry about breaking the game and not worry about it being too weak. Because the third category is legendary, and those are the items that have they are, whew, you'll know if you read an item, oh, this is a legendary one for sure. And if you use this system, instead of naming it based off of rarities, which should be the world dependent, it should be dungeon master dependent, not the book telling you like how frequently you can find these. It's the power level I care about. And when I'm telling you guys about items, it's the power level I care about. So these heroic items in the middle, they exist most of the time, and you can give your players out without having to worry about legendary items breaking the game or the wondrous items that aren't that powerful. Timeout. Hey there, Dungeon Ref here. I don't know if you know this, but the Dungeon Coach creates monthly D&D PDFs full of homebrew resources and DM tools every single month. All you gotta do to get your hands on it is become a patron, and you get access to the September's Volume 1 of the DC Playbook and everything into the future. So this whole Patreon thing only gets more and more valuable with more and more content over time. So you can check all that stuff out to join the team down in the description. So now, back to the video. So back to the question of how many magic items should you give your party? You want to give them rewards at a rate that feels, I would say every maybe 2 sessions or so. Right? Somebody getting something. I'm not saying every single person, every other session gets a magic item. That's crazy. They should feel like they've accomplished something, right? So I'm not talking about magic items right now. I have a bonus level up perk system that I have that. I ran a campaign that was very low magic at first. They traveled further north, and the farther north they traveled, the more magic it became, and then they found magic items. But at first it wouldn't make sense for them to just find magic items in this place that they went to for this quest. But what I did is I upgraded their actual character, and I explained the growth and power and the cool new thing they could do through the source of them being able to do it instead of a magic item being able to do it. I explained it through them, right? So that's a bonus level up perk. Give them rewards based on cool things that they get inside the city. They have access to a new part of the city. They give them a house, a place, a base of operations. Those type of rewards is what's important here. So this is a live stream. This question that was asked is, how often should you get magic items? That extremely depends on how many other things you're giving them. If you're consistently giving them bonus level up perks and cool things from rewards, and they're getting gold, and they have stuff they can buy gold with, that could be a whole nother video, then you don't need to give them a whole bunch of magic items. And especially if you're giving them upgrades as a player, you don't need to give them magic items as much, right? So you need a steady stream of rewards so that they feel like as they are doing things well, they are getting rewarded for it, and have that match into the storyline of what they're engaging with, right? But back to in magic items overall, it really depends at the beginning of the game. I'm going to say a number here, but at the beginning of the game, I give out magic items, and I'll say by the time, here's the number. By the time my players get to like 5th level, I would say if I have a party, let's say I have a party of 4 and they get to 5th level, each of them would probably have about 3 magic items, and And I almost in my head just now, I thought, ooh, would they have one per level? Would a 5th level character have 5 magic items? That's a bit much. That's a bit much. They would have maybe half that, or you could think proficiency bonus of magic items. Ooh, that's interesting, right? In fact, I think that might be a good description of what kind of is in my head right now, because it's a feel thing for me, depending on the bonus level of perks, depending on everything else. But I'd say in general, a blanket statement would be their proficiency bonus in magic items makes a little bit of sense, but it's magic items that are useful is another thing here. So if you give them these mundane magic items, I did a whole video on mundane magic items. If you give these wondrous, really low magic items that they just get a plus little thing here, or they have the ability to cast, it's a sword that has the light cantrip basically, and you can turn on the sword and it lights up. Plenty of weapons out there have done that. Maybe that's one of the magic items they get super early. Maybe they get that the 3rd session, 4th session, they find a light up sword. Wow, it's something magical and cool. Will they replace that later? Yes. And when they replace that, you don't count the replaced item as another magic item. They can go sell it. They can have it in their bag as one of their many tools that they have, but they can replace that with the heroic tier of magic items and everything. So I would say they keep leveling up. Let's say they get to level 10. I would say level 10 characters, 4, 5 maybe magic items. You're again still around that proficiency bonus type amount of magic items, because you don't want them to have so many where they just have like all these magic items sitting around and they just kind of like they're drowning in magic items, because then they could break the game if they wanted to and go sell them all, and then that's a whole nother concept of gold. But I like to limit the amount of magic items that I have, because I give my players the bonus level. I have 3 videos now and then 2 entire PDFs I'm about to release on bonus level up perks to give your players the things that they can do. Because a lot of times a magic item in the wrong hands is going to be broken. Like a certain item in the ranger's hands is fine, but if you put it into the barbarian's hands, oh my god, so that's a whole nother thing to think about. But if you get all the way, let's say you're 15th level, oh my gosh, 5 magic items is, not something too crazy. And the attunement system, as far as that goes, you can also limit this issue of how many magic items to give them with the attunement. If you want to enforce the 3 attunement maximum, have them have certain items are attuned and certain items aren't, and then they have to figure out which ones they use and which ones they don't, all that kind of stuff. I've ran a campaign where I didn't use attunement at all. If you could attune to it and it was attuned to you, done. And that was it, and it was fine, because that was the type of campaign I was running. Another thing you can do is have give a bonus level up perk to a player to let them be able to attune to more magic items, or if they attune to too many magic items, have wild magic surges happen, and the magic's kind of combining and doing strange things because they're pushing the limits of what their body can hold magically. So anyway, if I were to scale this all the way up, let's say we're 20th level, we're at the end of the campaign. And in fact, no one ever gets there. So I'm going to say 10th level. If I had a 10th level party of 4 players, each player, I would say, has 1 legendary item. Oh, wow. They would have 2, maybe 3 heroic items, and maybe 2 or 3, or however many they've accumulated and held on to and not sold of the wondrous items, right? So there's a smattering of items. Now I just listed off for that 10th level player 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if you think of it. So there's 1 legendary, 2 or 3 heroic, and 2 or 3 wondrous. I think that's okay. Depends on the magic items. If they play in combination with each other, oh, that's too much. If you're given a bunch of bonus level up perks and other stuff, take some of those away too. So this problem is not just one system where there's some chart and you need to give out this many magic items. I hope that you see that's what I'm talking about here. And I hope that you can analyze every once in a while, check your player's character sheet. What magic items do you have? And let them kind of inventory through and go and check in. If they have a whole bunch of those wondrous quality, the really low level ones that aren't that great, that's not that big of a problem. If they have 5 of those, cool. It's like a little toolkit, like a bunch of different gadgets they can pull out. And maybe that's what they like. Maybe they'd like to have more weaker items than 1 legendary staff that is so amazing that it can do all these things, right? So there's my rant on magic items. I hope you can see that it's really heavily applicable towards what you're doing in the game. And I would say in general, my final thought here is don't rely too heavily on magic items. I love bonus level up perks. I think it's way cooler to say that this paladin can do this really awesome thing with their magic because they can do it with their magic, not because they're wielding a shield and the shield allows them to be able to, you know what I'm saying? Hold up. Lewis just asked the question. I went on this huge rant and then he has a question about what do I mean by magic items? weapons, armor, like bags of holding and stuff like that. So bags of holding and things that the entire group can use, like magic carpets or things that are magical, like the beads of nourishment, I think is what they're called. Like those magic items that one person, yes, is holding, but they're used by the group and stuff like that. I don't count those as a group magic item. The deck of many things. Yeah, that's a whole story there. I don't consider those group-based things as magic items, right? I know that they're magic items. I get it, but I'm talking about a player's when I'm analyzing a player's level of magicness, right? I'm not counting that. I'm counting weapons, armor, things that make them more strong in combat, things that make them more tactically viable in combat, or really things that make them more tactically viable in the game itself. If you have a staff of teleportation, that's probably not going to help you in combat, but man, is that going to be useful in lots of other ways. And getting in and out of places, traveling to places. Teleportation in general is one of the things that can break the game, just like flying and some other things. So keep that in mind too.